who is everything, yet is no thing, who comes to us in the form of the Netanyahu Ra, who is the light of the heavens, light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibilities in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akiru, true of thought, word, and deed, to our highest reality, and in the moments of the crises and the dark nights of the soul, when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down. So it is, and so shall it be. Amen. Maat. Ma'akiru. 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 Let's see. Dua. Yahweh. Yahweh. All right. We're not going to be long today. I've been managing my energy more responsibly, so I'm going to say what I got to say and sit my old self down now, since I'm a year older. Those that was curious, I'm 52, not actually 25 years old. I know I look 25, but actually 52. I'm fully grown now in every sense of the word. So, so I'm going to say what I got to say. It's not going to be long, but it's going to be meaningful. So today, we're going to call it, since we've been on our Ma'at talk, so today is going to be called Ma'at, the law that governs our legacy. So first off, let us congratulate ourselves for the most successful year at the African Arts Festival. So that means the success rituals we all been doing has been working. So sometimes you just got to take a moment to recognize when it is working. We be so cognizant when the way is not feeling open to us, that when the way is open, sometimes we brush past it just to stress about the next thing that's not right. So let us relish in that. And the summer is a very special and powerful and positive time for us as copper tone Melanites. So we got that out the way, because there's a lot that goes on during the summer. What officially sets off the summer is the Dance Africa, right? Dance Africa at BAM. And then what's after that? The arts. No. Adum Day and Ancestor Day on Saturday, then the Adum Day, and then the International Arts Festival. So that's a lot. That's almost things going on every week as soon as the days appear to be getting longer. And then we're still gearing ourselves up for Wet Repet. So that's a lot on us. And I want to just take a few minutes to appreciate all the initiates as well as the supporters of the temple that learn how to schedule their lives and their vacations around their spiritual duty. That's often overlooked, right? So we got to have one of those talks today. Talks about duty. Because the world offers us a bunch of distractions and temptations, and our head often gets filled with thoughts that sometimes we think qualifies us from not acknowledging our spiritual duty, right? And then, people be like, well, I was there the last 3 times. And so just understand this, the messages that I get up here and speak, they're mandatory for initiatives. Did y'all know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're just allowing the community in on a conversation that we were supposed to be having anyway. But the messages of the communion is mandatory for initiatives. And for those who are supporters, it's giving you just some insight into what it is that you might be trying to become a part of and what's expected of you. All right? So, some people could just be like, well, I came the last 3. And people be wanting, I guess, pats on the back. And my thing like, but you're an initiate. You're supposed to be here every time. To be fair and not to be trying to guilt anyone. My job is not to guilt anyone. The leadership's job is not to talk about things that make you feel guilty or ashamed, but I do have to provoke self-introspection to give you a chance to kind of assess yourself and to give you the opportunity to demonstrate with honor what it is that you said you signed up for. That's different than shaming someone. We all, as being initiates on the path, you have to always put yourself under circumspection. So I can't commend someone from coming to a communion once or twice, when in reality that could be considered a form of disrespect to some of us who come every time. I can't remember the last time I wasn't here and I had kidney failure. I was in the hospital. I might have missed 2. And outside of that, I never missed the communion, the 20-something years we've been doing it. You'll be hard-pressed to remember when Hemet ever missed the communion. You'll be hard-pressed to remember when Armin Cow missed the communion. You'll be hard-pressed to see when Kurt Head missed the communion. Majudi's another case, but that's something else we didn't talk about. We had a pattern going on. But to be an initiate, do y'all know what does the word initiate mean or imply?
To begin.
To begin what?
The process.
The process, the path, what else? Spiritual journey. Everything is the process to begin to do everything. Walk, talk, dress, eat, sleep. So it's the equivalent of being reborn. So it's this interesting phenomenon to see people get initiated and they keep all the old habits or go back to the old habits. Some people, they get initiated and you don't see them again. That's weird. So you never see the butterfly mourning being a cocoon, right? And you never see Kepler dragging the dung. The dung was a medium that was necessary at a phase, and then you gotta let it go. So, as an initiate, you have to find balance. You have to find a balance within yourself as an individual, as well as your connection and your commitment to the tribe. To the tribe, the nation, the culture, which the divine has given us. So the tribe, the nation, the culture, and the divine is all one and the same. So you have to find your balance between your individuality and that. You have to have what I call like the infinity gene of our ancestors. That means irregardless of what was going on in your personal life or what was going on with the world, you made sure that the tribe was right, the nation was right, the culture was right, and the divine charge was being taken care of, right? So, do y'all know, like, we're the only people that have this conversation in 2022, and we be having this conversation when it comes to our legacy, regardless of what tradition we practice. We be like, but it's 2022, things is different now. And how far does our legacy go? About, how many years?
36,000.
Yeah, back.
36,000.
He said 36,000. Would you say more than that?
I would say 75,000.
He said 75,000. So approximately, what was the date of the first dynasty?
4,000 BC.
He said 4,000. That's good enough. So 4,000 BC. So in the 4,000 BC, do you think there was cultures before that? Whole. All right. So do you feel like 4,000 BC they were building off of what was before them? So do you think in 4,000? We'll go with the highest number. Kurt had said 70,000, 75,000 years. So do you think in 44,000 BC they said, yo, it's 4,000 BC, man. Now that stuff that they was doing was over. It's 4,000. We doing it different. So do y'all know that when you look at the images of the Nasits and when you look at the images of the priests, it's pretty much the same, right? From the beginning all the way to the end. And before 4,000, you saw the prototype of what was to be built upon. So they wasn't trying to change anything. They was trying to make things better. They wasn't trying to be cool with whatever they thought the time was. Back then, we was in a position where spirituality was cool. we didn't have to have this conversation of feeling funny for being spiritual and having to sit next to people that wasn't spiritual. Everybody was spiritual. So spirituality was always trending. It never got old, and that's why the image looked pretty much consistent. So the point is, so you look at the first dynasty, or you look at Old Kingdom, you look at New Kingdom, or Middle Kingdom and New Kingdom, a lot of people, when they talk about the kings and queens, they don't even be knowing what dynasty they're talking about because it all looks the same. So here we are in 2022 talking about, oh, that was back then, this is now. As though that's an excuse to break from tradition and just try something totally new. And a lot of times, even with our tradition, when we look back at our ancestors, we supposed to be trying to see the wisdom in it and not so quick to break from it to try something new because we're uncomfortable, because we're the only ones, or it looks or feels like we're the only ones that's trying to do this thing. For instance, so when you're talking about the 4,000 BC, like the brother said, so when we're contemplating what was done before them, there was whole prototypes for the pyramid. There's something called a bent pyramid. These are some of the mistakes and stuff you saw before they actually got it down correct. And actually, most people don't know it's more pyramids in Nubia than it is in actual Kemet. So they was trying to get this science down for a minute. So that takes pressure off of us of feeling like we have to have it all worked out or figured out, especially when we know we're rebuilding a legacy. We're reconstructionists. We're reconstructionists, so we shouldn't feel bad about what it is that we got to do to make this legacy relevant to us in our experience. And we shouldn't feel bad that it ain't exactly the same. We're on the right path in the right direction. For instance, we're down in the south in the Nile, because people always look for contradiction. When people ask me, they looking for contradictions in the legacy to get me to try to explain why one whole time period of Kemites did something different than another time period Kemites. Not realize, remember there's upper Kemet and then there's lower Kemet, right? Do y'all know those were sometimes two different cultures? We already been through that. That's what the whole Nasut Bidi was. He was uniting the North with the South because those are almost two different languages at that time. Because Nasut is the king of the South, Bits is the king of the North. So when somebody says I'm the Nasut, I'm the king, I'm the double king. Whatever y'all call the king up there, I'm that. Whatever y'all call it, that, I'm that. Get down and lay down. We've been through that before, right? So that's letting you know that there was two types of culture that they had to bring together. So that's what being a reconstructionist is. So sometimes, or I was back to my example. So if I'm down or up now, and I happen to live on the right side of the Hapi, and then I look at the skies, I'm gonna see a certain thing. So we can have stuff like the canopic jaws and be like, how come they said him said it's the north and this other book said it's the south or something and such. So now we go down north, I think. And then so now if I live on the right side and I look up, my orientation is two different things, right? So now you see how there appears to be contradiction that you gotta ask, okay, what dynasty was this? Where were they hailing from? It could be just vantage point. So here we are in the West. So when we address things, it's not gonna look exactly the same as our ancestors. And that goes for all of the traditions. It even goes with the West African traditions also. So when you look at Santeria, if you was an Ifa practitioner, they'd be like, that's Ifa. Santeria know it's Ifa. Ifa people know it's Ifa. But there's a lot of things in the Santeria culture that's specific to them. So they have their little ritualisms and almost like a whole different culture. Each other sideways, like, what y'all do what? Y'all say what? But it makes sense for the people that's practicing the culture. So we have to, what we're doing is making our way for our right to make it, for it to glue for us. So oftentimes I feel like we're fighting against modernism. So a lot of times the debate against us as spiritual practitioners is like we gotta come out the path. Remember that? Oh, it's 2022. Oh, it's about the science. You gotta come up to date. And modernism is not the enemy, but there's certain things that our ancestors put stop signs on that we just busting through right now. Remember, when we study our ancestors, we supposed to be trying to see the wisdom of it and not just a bunch of rules that's trying to stop us from being happy. That word happy is elusive. That word happy, that search for happiness is causing a lot of destruction and a lot of confusion, especially when it comes to yoga and all about prana and energy in the air. So us in our modernism, we like, close that window, we be letting all the heat out. You know, we be talking about the bills and stuff, but you need to let some fresh air or you literally killing yourself. What about air conditioning? What makes the air cool? Freon. And Freon is a chemical, right? It sounds like it ain't good for you, right? But we enjoying that cool air from, so that chemical is giving us the illusion that we're experiencing cool air. If you're very in tune with your breath, you can actually smell the Freon in the air, especially if you got the old window units. It has a scent. But that ain't stopping nobody from turning on that AC, right? Like, and that just turned it off. Turn it off. Too much Freon, right? Like, there's too much Freon in here. All right, so modernism tells us or puts this philosophy out that you can do what you want, or you should be able to do what you want. Is that true?
No.
She ain't even let me tease it out. She's supposed to be like, yeah, it's kind of true. She's like, no. She said it so definitive, divine feminine is spoken, said no. But that's the sentiment that's going around, right? Isn't that confusing to a lot of people? Everybody just now reserving the right to just do what they want. So that doesn't necessarily work for us in the African tradition. So in the African tradition, everything always starts with a reading, right? You need to find out who your mother deity is or who your father deity is. You need to find out who and what's required of your ancestors. Who are your ancestors and what's required. You're given a training to actually heal your ancestry. Because who you are, your personality goes at least 10 generations back. So you ain't even really you at the end of the day. So you need to know who these people are or why you as crazy as you are. I don't want to call people crazy. But why you do what you do. Some of the stuff we do is crazy. You're like, yo, where did that come from? Why did I say that? You eating weird foods that you ain't been, that you got no business eating, or that's not part of how you came up. So here it is. So before you can say, I don't care what nobody say, I'm gonna do what I gotta do, you gotta consider, okay, what does the deity say about my character? What is it that they require for me to accomplish in this life? Do I know enough to start the healing process of my ancestors? So these days, the new age, they teach you that your spirituality is remember, it's personal, it's my personal connection to the source. And it sounds good, and it's true. Two things can be true at the same time. But in reality, your personal connection to the source is filtered through your mother, your father, and your ancestors. So before you tell, I don't care what nobody say, there's a whole bunch of layers of interpretation you got to consider. Let me go to one of the texts on that. Y'all remember this? Because people, they don't like to follow no more, right? So if you don't like to follow that means by default you think you're a leader. Everybody, I'm the leader, I'm the king of my own life. I don't have to listen to nobody, or I shouldn't have to listen to nobody. So once again, so y'all don't think I'm up here just telling my opinion, see what our ancestors have to say about that view.
What page?
I just lost the page. What's that one, be not arrogant? No, if you're leader and commander of many. Y'all know that one?
Strive for excellence in all that you do.
What book is that in?
Who see it?
You said 41?
Yes.
All right, yeah. So if you're a leader and command many, so if you're not a follower, then You're making this small as something that you think you're a leader, or you contrasted yourself amongst everybody else and you think everybody else so goofy. So you the man, you the woman. So if you're a leader and command many, so you could be a leader and might not command many, just to let y'all off the hook. Strive for excellence in all that you do, so no fault can be found in your character. For Maat, the way of truth, justice, righteousness is great, and its value is lasting, and has remained unequaled and unchanged since the time of its creator. It lies as a plain path before even the ignorant, and those who violate its laws are punished. We just talked about Maat being the law that governs this legacy, so but we're going to go back to the top. If you're a leader, forget the command many part. So if you're a leader, strive for excellence in all that you do, so no fault can be found in your character. So that's letting you know our ancestors didn't support this whole thing like, I could do what I want to do and I ain't got to care. Be blameless in matters of conduct, so people are watching. So to some measure, you have to care what other people think, and you have to watch what you say. Can we all say that we've been impacted negatively or positively by our parents?
Absolutely.
So when a lot of times when you put children in the scenario, puts things in proper perspective, because we like to believe we're grown and we're impervious to pain and stuff like that, but there's certain things our parents did or didn't do that's impacted us in a way that we feel stunted our forward progress or growth. So here it is, you hear your self-proclaimed leader, things that you say and do impact other people. So more, if you're going to be on this path of Maat, you gotta care about what you say, what you do, and how you do it. Even myself, before I do anything, I gotta ask myself, is this acceptable for me as an assistant to do? And I have to even ask, okay, if I do this thing, how's it gonna reflect on the temple, the people, in the legacy? Because remember, I said Nasud, not King. Hey, King. Hey, we've been through that. Everybody called me each other King. I'm saying I'm understood. So that's a whole other thing for those that know what that means. For those that know what that means. So if somebody's saying Nasud, they're on a path. This is not just what they call it, a word of endearment. So even y'all know I do the music thing. So I do spiritual music, I do cultural music, and I even do hip hop. I was even battling with the hip hop thing. I was like, do people want to see a rap in the hood? And then, because people have their perception of what they think hip hop is. They be like, so the hood's gonna be popping it up and toasting in a club? Nah, not the type of music I make, not the type of hip hop I make. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a conscious, so y'all don't gotta worry about me doing that. So this is gonna be making trap and drill music. I'm not in the trap. I don't do drill music, so that's not the type of music I make. So you see what I'm saying? So sometimes you could bring positive attention to the legacy, and if it's sometimes some people might not think that it's positive, and you gotta teach them about the angle that you're coming from. So remember, like 3-4 communions ago, I gave a serious discussion about music. I had to let people know about the importance of music. Music is the soundtrack of our lives. And I asked you all, could you imagine your life up to this point if you didn't have some music or a musician expressing some of the things that you've been through? And I said, and that's also part of why I got an issue with social media and putting it on all types of platforms where they giving me 1 cent. Yet we're making music, we're telling the story of our lives, and the artist only gets barely a cent out of it. And we don't know where the rest of our money's coming from. But let the execs and $10,000 a week checks they get, they know exactly where their money comes from. They ain't ever got to worry about not getting paid. But yet the music is keeping everyone's going. A lot of music is keeping people afloat. A lot of music is helping people release. But anyway, so I do spiritual music, I do conscious music, so I have no qualms about indulging in music, whether it's spiritual, cultural, or hip hop. That's how I made my resolution. So sometimes we have these ideas about the Netanyahu and the legacy that's not always grounded in reality. A lot of people's understanding about these forces come through books. A lot of people's understandings come through other people's understanding and not a personal connection. They be like, well, Osher Kwesi said the Neteru is such and such, such and such, and then you take that as gospel. And so a lot of people don't have personal connection with the Neteru, and they just remember sentences, sound bites of all the scholars before them. And we have conversations over what sound bite you remember, Majid. And then we just go through the black man is God. Now it's the black woman is God. That's the new sound bite. The black woman is God. So we're just having conversations mimicking stuff that we've heard that's impacted us over the course of the years. When in reality, remember, this legacy evolves. That's why we don't like to call it a religion. It's a legacy. It evolves over the course of time. It adapts. It adapts with circumstances. So when we say Het Heru, we mean the same thing our ancestors meant with Het Heru, but there's still a unique expression the way Het Heru might look for us. Usually people say Het Heru is love, joy, beauty, creativity, things dealing with music, right? But what about sexuality? Why do spiritual people get all prudish when it comes to sexuality? So there's a thing called Tantra, and they got what's called, with women, a dark triad personality. Religion and spirituality is so sanitized by the Judeo-Christian religions, and so any pure expression of sexuality makes people feel uncomfortable. And then all that stuff. But over here, you hey, cover yourself. Shame, nakedness, in the Bible, the nakedness was something to be shameful of. When you look at African culture, people got loincloths and stuff, they got less clothes on as possible. When you look at the images of the women in ancient Kemet, they're either naked or they got a caftan on that's sheer. What is sheer? See-through, right? But that brings some conflict in today's time. I'm not telling women to get it all out. I'm just showing you a contrast of what the Het Heru energy is and how we've been taught to shame that. And that there's certain things that need to be interpreted as a Het Heru thing, and there's certain things that need to be interpreted as here in the West. So what is a Heru activity over here in the West? Whether she said being a rapper, whether good or bad, would you say the gang is a Heru activity?
It's got some of that like warrior element.
Yeah.
Fighting.
Fighting. Say that again. Even the drill stuff, that's some straight up it's unbridled warrior energy. What about the feminine?
Feminine Heru energy?
No, Het Heru.
I see African dancing.
Singing, art, painting.
Singing, art, painting.
Doing things with your hair, styling, jewelry making.
So she went all positive when it came to the feminine. So we talk about can shooting the minion, cross, stripping, modeling, all. Yes, it did. Remember. Explain, talk to me.
The damsel in distress type of.
Damsel in distress. Remember, we have the power and we have the pathology. Between the power and the pathology is what they call the shadow. Doing the shadow work. Like me and Hemet have these conversations all the time. Like she introduced me to what they're calling the pole work, which has been associated with strippers, but it's now an art form. I bet you that's gonna be in the Olympics. Like, so yeah, where's the conversation? Just like double dutch used to be some ghetto street stuff, it's in the Olympics too, right? So when I see the women on the pole, I don't see the strippers or putting money in, I see a woman in tune with her sensuality, her sensual expression that's often been suppressed by society. I'm seeing mind-body connection, mastery of the body. Athleticism, that's the word that I'm looking for. Say that again.
It's like a gymnast.
Gymnast. So if you think the ancestors were to be able to be transported to this day and time and they seen a woman doing that in the studio, would you think they would approve?
Yeah.
if you understand her real, he said definitive, yeah, just like how she said no before the masculine is like, hell yeah. the masculine appreciates that because it's mind-body control through the breath, it's discipline, and how other people interpret it. Say that again. Magnetic. See, we're talking qualities now. So remember, the deities are not stuck just into the myths and the metaphors. We start talking pure principles. She said magnetic. She said athletic. So now y'all confirm that it's an Olympic. So this is something else now. This is a whole discipline. In the same pole that the women are working to master their femininity or to express their femininity, the men are working the pole too. No, what they say, what's that word? They said no homo or whatever. That's what they said?
Yeah, when you make your point, no homo.
Oh, pause. They got pause.
That was like 10 years ago.
For that.
So men are working a pole. Check it out. Men are working a pole, but it's in the streets. It's called the monkey bar. Y'all see what the street calisthenics that they do? That's like Olympic level. I call it ghetto Qigong. So if you see a man and he grabs his pole like this, and then his rest of his body just goes straight.
Okay.
That's the same stuff the women are doing on the pole in the studio. That's the masculine expression of it. That takes some serious internal strength. That takes serious mind-body awareness on looking at the women do amazing stuff. They on another level, they just be up in the air twirling and stuff, and the brothers be just seeming like they got infinite amount of energy. So here we have these modern expressions and interpretations that's allowing us to indulge in masculine, the expression of masculine and feminine energy. So our ancestors found that if you don't have a ritualized, controlled form of consent, listen to that again. They found that if you don't have a ritualized, controlled form of consent, that it will come out in the form of unbridled promiscuity. Unbridled promiscuity means STD. It means unwanted pregnancy. Now we gotta have this conversation. The man should learn, even with condoms, he learns semen retention.
Okay.
Learn how to transmute, but this is things you're supposed to learn in rites of passage. These are things that all men and women are supposed to know. So of course, with things like rape, they need to chill with that law. Matter of fact, it just happened. Some 10-year-old young girl just got raped in Ohio, and they don't want to let her do what needs to be done. So she got to bring in this thing that ain't supposed to be here, mixed with an evil bloodline, and the rest of the way now it's collateral damage, and the rest of the world's going to have to find a way to now make this child feel like it belongs. Because after all, it's a life, right? Ain't that the conversation? It's a life. All right, so when masculine energy doesn't have a proper outlet, you have men gravitating towards the gangs. There was a time when all men through rites of passage, you had to fight. You might have to get busted up within an inch of your life. But if you was paying attention when they was teaching you how to fight, you wouldn't get busted up within an inch of your life. But now they've excused all of this stuff. They've excused, the masculine energy's been watered down to the point where they don't like losers no more. Like, they got first place, and the second place, and the third place, and the eighth place. You're like, man, you either won or you lost. And they're like, oh, we don't want it to affect the psyche of the person, so everyone's a winner. You're like, no, you win or you lose. So your maturity and your training is going to decide whether you see that L is a loss or a lesson. It's supposed to be a lesson. Like, why did you lose? You're like, yo, they was in better shape. All right, then why are you taking it personally? You know what you got to do. Then you don't let people explore their sexuality in a healthy way with healthy elders. That's grounded in the tradition. This is what it looks like when people are left to their own devices. we got to suffer the collateral damages. But anyway, to go on, to move on. I was saying about Maat is the Lord that governs this legacy. So to be a part of this, any attention, time, some people also saw that there were cycles, and there was high points and low points of those cycles, those high points and those low points, and how we measure the distance. And understand, remember, this message is for the initiates. Remember, as initiate, when you become initiated, the deities and the ancestors are unforgiving when it comes to the time that's required. Y'all hear that? The deities and the ancestors are unforgiving when it comes to the requirements of time that's required. Remember, in there's no such thing as time in their dimension. It's seeming like it's taking forever for us to get this thing together. So when Amakeda comes like, I want to be initiated, what do I got to do? And they be like, oh, word? She coming? Now that they got work to do. We got work for her to do. So now we have to make up, we like 300 something years behind. At least we like 400 years behind where we need to be. So that requires more from the initiates. This is when they talk about ignorance is bliss. If you ain't ready for discipline, don't mess with the African traditions. If you want to play around, stay in the New Age thing. Because the deities and the ancestors are requiring the best of you. So if you find yourself struggling with time, don't do ATR. If you struggle with prioritizing divinity, don't do ATR. That's advice for all of the people out there, not necessarily the people in the room. Energy is present. That's what Margaret was alluding to before. Some people, I'll repeat, some people show up, but they're not present. Some people are so disconcerted about the sacrifices they had to do just to show up that they miss the benefits of showing up. You got people down there showing like, they don't know that I'm missing 5 hours of sleep to be here. I hope somebody appreciate that I gave up sleep to be, when you want pats on the back for every little sacrifice. I hope they appreciate I could have been asleep, but I'm not. I hope they appreciate that I couldn't at work. I could have done an extra shift, but I'm here. So it's like, but your energy's jacked. You might as well went to work. So you don't sent your body as an avatar, just a holding a placeholder, and you're just sitting there, but you don't really want to be here. So that's energy, that's pulling the energy down. So your energy still got to be right. You're like, man, they don't know I could have been at the family reunion. But I chose to be here. Like, ain't we family too? This is the family reunion. I was speaking to him before we came. Wasn't there something you could have been at that was very really important to you that you wanted to be at, but you made a decision?
Yeah, this weekend is PSO Liberty, which is taking place in Philly. So about 7 of the women that I train with are down in Philly competing for full sport this weekend. And not only was I going to go to support them, but I actually was on the list to compete this weekend. My teachers and we had talked about me competing, my first competition this weekend, but it's a community weekend, so I bowed out and I'm not competing. Because I'm here.
And that thing happens how many times a year?
Liberty happens once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah.
And what's the caveat to that? And next year, if it's on communion weekend again, you still can't go.
Next year either, yeah.
That's the life of an initiate, And mental, ain't you supposed to be on the road now, ideally?
Yeah.
Mental sleep. Go home watching you on YouTube. So like mental's here, ideally he's supposed to be on the road. Where's the saying? Hold up, real quick. It's a powerful saying. I'm gonna say this, but there's another version of it. It said, for more acceptable is the virtue of the righteous than the sacrificial ox of those that do evil.
What book now, first? Yeah, what book is that?
The book of Ketty.
Page 52, paragraph 7. More acceptable is the virtue of the righteous than the sacrificial ox of those that do evil. Meaning people want to do animal sacrifices, they want to do all these things and thinking that's going to make up for what's really required of you.
Okay.
So you can't do away with evil over a sacrifice. You're supposed to be righteous. So as an initiate, you're supposed to prioritize what it is that you do. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. And it is what it is. There's no getting around it. It's nobody's job to make you feel good about how you should, how you fell short. So energy. So Maat spoke about Smai Makeda gets up here and she gives a lot of energy. We all prepared to make this whole thing an experience for you all. So if you're not matching her energy, then we're failing. Let me repeat that. If you're not matching the energy that she's trying to get to, you're failing. Because some people come in, like you said, they just be like, yeah, they just grooving and watching other people groove and wait till somebody put their eyes on it. Oh, yeah, I'm chanting and stuff. Some people are like, yeah, I'm just really here to hear the sis message. And I'm flattered and all that, but I'm the closer of the show. It ain't about me. We're offering a whole experience in the journey that's coming, that we're offering when it comes through the door. So if you're not matching the energy, then we're failing, because that's part of what it is to clear up your energy. You're supposed to be, y'all hot?
No.
I'm getting hot. Turn that freon back on.
That energy.
I need to breathe some chemicals in here to keep me cool. Oh, where was I?
You're not matching the energy.
All right, so I said not matching the energy. So when you come to the Het Netzir, the house of the divine, when you come to a shrine, you're there to give, not to receive.
Right.
So whatever it is that funk, you're supposed to give it up. When you're supposed to give it up with the Hesse. So that's your offering. So you're like, okay, let me give it all I got, because when I give it up, that's when the energy shifts, changes, and transforms. Then it's given back to you in the form of inspiration and fulfillment. And that's why you could leave feeling better than you was when you came in, but only after you made yourself empty so you could be fulfilled. Got it? And attention. You have to pay attention. As initiates and supporters, you have to pay attention. Because I said everything that's being taught in the temple is a must for the initiates. So the downside of being an initiate, especially in the Kemetic tradition, the downside is y'all get so much knowledge that y'all forget how to actually learn. I commend a lot of the other ATR traditions because it's based on action. They give them some knowledge and stuff, but it's about the work. So the Kemetic tradition and the Kemetic teachers spoiled the people. And we got into this position that we feel that if we give you a whole bunch of knowledge and you understand the heck out of a situation, that's going to be enough to make things change. So yeah, you know all the metaphysics behind it, but has it changed? Did you actually change it? So I say sometimes you learn so much that you take your learning for granted and you actually forget how to learn. And part of learning is, once again, how you show up, your ability to receive. After receiving, you have to, shemayit, which is fellowship. Speak to one another. Be like, okay, what did you get from the message today? What part stuck out to you? And then after the fellowship, then it's men, means continue, to establish, to continue consistently. So you're like, okay, now how are we going to support each other in manifesting the teachings? So we don't disrespect our teachers' time, energy, and attention that they took to craft this message to reach and impact us. Does that make sense? So time, energy, and attention. So The spirit of this Afro-Kemetic legacy, Maat is the law that governs us. In order to be Kemetic, you have to love order. Now, when people hear that word order, they see like rules and structure, and that's very masculine. So I said, in order to love this legacy, you have to love order. I'll say it again. In order to love this legacy, you have to love Ma'at. Ma'at is feminine. What's the image of Ma'at? You see the feminine like her feather, you know, like that's right. She's the woman. She's faced this way with the arms, and she has feathers, right? Feather in the hair. So that represents Ma'ati, the double truth. So feathers represent subtlety. So that's telling you there's always a side of a thing that you don't see, that you have to learn to perceive into the subtleties of a thing. So there's the side you know, the side you don't know, and then there's what you decide to do after you figure out the other side. Pretty much what is going to be the truth you bring into the third dimension. So you got one truth, the second truth, and then the truth that you bring into the third dimension. So we love order, we love Ma'at. Then there's spiritual law. And that's a profound thing to say, spiritual law. So spirituality is feminine, we'll give that. Spirituality is feminine. But feminine doesn't mean female. Female doesn't mean woman. So we be using this thing interchangeably and stuff. So men be getting all their feminine, be like, oh, it's the time for the divine feminine. And men be saying that it's the time for the women. Nah, it ain't over for the men yet. No, we ain't done. Feminine doesn't always mean, even though the woman is the avatar of the feminine, even though the female is the avatar of the feminine, it's not submitted into that. So femininity represents receptivity. In order to be highly spiritual, you have to be receptive. That's what they're talking about when it's time for the feminine. It's time to be receptive. The universe is trying to communicate with us. Y'all hear about all those solar, it's like every other week a solar flare about to come to the earth, and they be like, I don't know, y'all, this might be it. And then, you know, the Tuesday, Wednesday come out, you like, oh, we still here. They be like, yeah, just missed the earth by 3 miles. You said what? It's always in it. Every week, it's always some type of asteroid or something coming to the earth and stuff like that. I don't even know what the heck I was talking about. Receptivity.
Receptivity.
Not just feminine.
Okay.
That doesn't mean female.
And then masculine doesn't always mean male, doesn't always mean man. So when we say spiritual law, that is the blend of masculine and feminine. Spiritual is feminine, law is masculine order, right? So if you really follow spirituality or the feminine, it's going to lead you to the masculine, which is the law, because there's a thing called spiritual law. And after a while, you start seeing there's a thin line between spirituality and religion. Spiritual people be swearing, I'm so religious, I'm so spiritual, I ain't got nothing to do with religion, but every time you turn around, they compare what they do. Spiritual. They're religious, but y'all both doing rituals around the same time of this phenomenon. Whether they remember it or not, whether they're in tune with it or not, they're doing a ritual at the solstice. You doing a ritual too. Oh, there ain't no, what do you call the Easter? Is it the Passover?
Passover.
And they're, oh, that's the fall equinox. Same thing. You doing a ritual, they doing a ritual. They be talking about the Sabbath. It's supposed to be kept into the moon cycle. That's all natural law. So law is masculine, natural is feminine. Natural law, so it's both. And if you follow the masculine, it's going to lead you back to the feminine. That's that yin and yang. What are we talking about? So you can't just be, well, the law says, and what does the book say? You know, remember they talk about the law, I got to quote the Bible, they talk about the law in the spirit of the law. So you can follow every jot and tittle of the law, but it's going to lead you to some point where you're going to have to be receptive to know which your next level. Does that make sense? So to be Kemetic, you have to love order. So I get up in here in front of you every 2 weeks. I represent order. Isn't my beard and stuff always done? My hair is tight. tight, and if my hair ain't tight, I got a hat or something, and the outfit, the color coordinated into the color of the day, color coordinated. We start at noon, which honors Ra, so we talk in order. There's order in the morning. There's supposed to be certain things you're supposed to do in the morning before you leave, certain things at noon, certain things, that's order. So, to be comedic, we're seeking order amongst the order in the world. So being comedic means, being comedic is our way of experiencing our oasis of peace in the chaos. And I'll leave it at that. Everybody stand up. That foot forward. It's a 90-degree angle. We say we go in peace and satisfaction. Shimmy and Matet, brothers right over left, sisters left over right, says Shimmy and Matet. He knew Uncle Jocelyn. Open up, give energy around the room. Bring it back to your heart, release. On the count of 3, ground out with your right foot. Wa, Sanu, Samet. All right.
Dua to those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube. We thank you for your time and your energy, and we thank you also in advance for the reciprocity that you show us in the form of donations sent by Cash App to $ Temple of New or by PayPal to templeofnew@gmail.com. We will see you all again in 2 weeks. We invite you to join us at Wefrem Pet, which is on Saturday, July 23rd, and then we will be here for our regularly scheduled communion on Sunday, July 24th.
Hold up, real quick. All right, just real quick, I forgot. Remember I told you I've been working on some music. So today, this afternoon, in about 15 minutes, we'll be releasing the first single. It's gonna be on Bandcamp. So the first song is called In the Sun. So I'm gonna check it. We literally, it's happening right in front of y'all right now. So I'm gonna check the copy of it now. So what time is it now? So look for it by 2:30. All right.
All right. And please don't forget to go to our website to register and join us for Wefrem Pet. Show me the tab, everyone.